Hello and what is up YouTube? My name is G3Iron and today we are taking a look with a character update at Almost Dead Draconis, our Juggernaut summoner right now in 3.8 Blight League. I've of course got a forum listing up with a more detailed walkthrough of what exactly it is to play this particular character. The archetype is simply strength stacking, zombie using, physical mitigating, endurance charge, stacking Juggernaut. That's the concept of the build. Now, this particular guy has recently hit a milestone for him. He made it to level 85 in maps. The next goal for him is going to be level 90. If at any point in time you would like to jump ahead and take a look at any of our discussion points or discussion topics as we're going over this overview, there are, of course, timestamps placed above my slightly Juggernautish balding forehead. And then, of course, if you'd like to leave us a comment or if I make any mistakes, you can do so down below in the comment section. So, really quick overview on the offenses and the defenses of this character. We are offensively using Ray's Spectre. I am generally switching back and forth between Carnage Chieftain and Host Chieftain as my two Spectres that I'm using, and then offensively they are primarily supporting our zombies, which presently we've got 11 zombies that we can use in conjunction with the Baron, because for every 300 strength we have, we're getting an additional zombie. I'm hoping to hit 900 strength at some point in the upcoming week as I make some adjustments and tweaks to gear. But that's pretty much, for the most part, that's the offense. That's basically the offense of this build. It's Spectres supporting with frenzy charges and power charges onto our zombies, and then zombies are going to work from there. I am using Pride as an aura just in case I need to be close to a boss or a Blight wave, which of course is going to then take a bunch of extra physical damage for being nearby to me, and that's very helpful for my Carrion Golem, which is also helping out, as well as for my zombies, which are dealing the vast majority of the damage. And then occasionally I'll use Vol Summon Skeletons, but that's mostly reserved for bosses, or if when interacting with the Blight mechanic there is a boss that spawns down a lane that I've got less than perfect towers on, I will Vol Summon Skeletons down that particular lane in order to block off the oncoming boss from destroying the pump. Defensively, this guy is a Juggernaut, and he has all of those meanings defensively. His armor, without any of his flasks up or endurance charges, is 43% physical mitigation with 7k armor. His evasion rating is pathetic at 345. His maximum energy shield is pathetic at 167. Energy shield for this guy is really more of an alert, hey, you took damage, be aware, than it is an actual effective means of defense. In terms of our resistances, we are at 72 for fire resist, 76 for cold resist, 76 for lightning resist, and then of course all of those go up as we continue to scale our endurance charges to the point where we are overcapped and well protected beyond the maximum amount of regular elemental resistances. We are just slightly positive with our chaos resistance at maximum endurance charges, so that's another area that I need to improve on the build. Chance to block attack damage is 22%, chance to block spell damage is 8%, and then our move speed modifier is just plus 12%. Nothing great there in terms of the move speed. This isn't going to be the speediest build because of running, but rather is going to be rather speedy because we're going to be shield charging all over the place as our zombies clear and then convoking in order to have them catch up, unless of course they've already caught up anyway, because they're very, very fast on their own right. Our life is at 6,600 life, which is a lot of life. I think it might even be overkill for this particular build because it's very, very rare that you are positionally in a place of danger. You ought not to be standing anywhere close to anything that could potentially damage you. You simply shouldn't. You really shouldn't as a summoner. If you are in hardcore, if you are standing on something that could damage you, most of the time it's your own fault. It's because you're not paying attention. You've got an undead army to go take care of enemies and stand on things that are damaging. You don't need to be risking yourself. And so 6,600 HP with near capped physical mitigation and overcapped elemental resistances is fantastic. You shouldn't take any major big hits. That being said, I haven't gone and killed Shaper yet. I haven't gone and fought Uber Elder or even a regular Elder yet. So we'll see what all that big defensive talk is like as I start to take on endgame bosses. A quick look at the passive tree, starting off with our Ascendancy. I don't have Uber Lab done yet. That's another thing that I need to get done. But first off, we started with Unflinching, which gave us some endurance charge generation as well as an additional endurance charge total to our maximum. Then we came over to Unrelenting, which rounded out our efficiency and effectiveness of endurance charges. And then we came down to Unbreakable, which is fantastic for life regen as well as for damage reduction across the board. And then for even more even more regen based on the physical amount of damage that you prevent from hits in the past 10 seconds, which is great. It is not uncommon at all for this build to have hundreds of HP, several hundreds HP in regenning any particular second. Of course, right now, just sitting in town, I've got 461 life regen per second. That's without any of my Ascendancies kicking into play, or of course using flasks. So that's a ton of life regen. Other than that, the passive tree is relatively straightforward. Big shout out to Beckett for helping me out with optimizing this thing and of course with theory crafting this guy. We started out coming all the way up to, Heart of the Warrior from Warrior's Blood and then Born to Fight, because you do start off the game doing some melee skills, even though you can use zombies relatively early on. And then I worked my way over to grab Juggernaut, to grab Stamina, to grab Barbarism, which is really, really good, as it both gives you +1 to maximum fire resistance, as well as just 6% to increase maximum life. It's a pretty dang good node. Down here we came and grabbed Soul of Steel, which is fantastic in terms of giving you, again, additional overcapped resistances. That's why right now I'm at 77, 76, 76. I might swap out to a Safwell's Frame to go even more further overcapped, but at the moment I'm not taking enough damage to justify that. Then we come down and we grab Bloodless, which is fantastic again for life. And eventually, once you grab a Baron, you can swap over and grab Utmost Might, which is a massive boost to your overall strength. Over here I've got Hard Knocks because I need it for some of my itemization. Presently for scaling up our intelligence gems, as well as minion wands, which minion wands nowadays require you to have 242 intelligence. That's the magic number. So you need to hit 242 intelligence in order to use minion wands, and so in order to do that, at the moment I'm using Hard Knocks, but I might swap off of this and reconfigure some things. Of course, we come over and we fill out the Scion Life Wheel, which gives us a bunch of life on our jewel sockets. I've got a couple of jewel sockets that I could still fill in. This particular one just gives me percentage increased life as well as flat strength and intelligence that's needed. Come all the way up, grab Grave Pact, which is great for dealing damage early on with your minions. It actually did a surprising amount of work throughout the story and throughout early leveling, even into maps where I didn't really get much minion damage on the tree. And you can see most of this tree is emphasized on defenses and life, not necessarily on minion damage. I don't even have the entirety of this Righteous Army, Spiritual Aid, and Redemption arc. I've just got the Righteous Army. That's all I need over here for my minions to deal damage and to clear out enemies, whether that's mapping or bossing. We come up through Discipline and Training, through Retribution, grab Sacrifice, because that's of course regenerating 1% of your life per second, which is great, and then Spiritual Command, which increases in reduction to minion attack speed, also affecting you, is fantastic for using Shield Charge in conjunction with Fortify, which is what we use to get around maps and zones most of the time. Of course, we make our way all the way up to Death Attunement in order to get as many zombies as possible, and then making our way down through Cruel Preparation, all the way down to Lord of the Dead for, again, as many zombies as possible. Over here, we grab Purity of Flesh and this whole wheel for chaos resistance and life. Like I said, we grab Righteous Army, and then I needed some more intelligence, and so we've also got another socket over here, which gives increased life, increased chaos resistance, and then the rest of it really doesn't matter, but those are the two things that we're looking for: is life, strength, chaos resistance, in order to stack those stats required either for our intelligence requirements for gems and for, of course, the minion wands, or for strength stacking in order to get as many zombies as possible. And then we rounded out grabbing Devotion and again, endurance for endurance charge stacking. That's the totality of the build. It's a relatively simple and straightforward tree. It's incredibly defensive. You're going to want to emphasize as much defensively as possible because, of course, I'm playing hardcore. If you're not playing hardcore, then first off, I'm not sure why you would even choose to play Juggernaut. Because, well, I guess if you're pushing for level 100 and you just don't like to die and lose XP, this is a great build then for you. You could, however, switch off some of these defensive options to come up and grab some things like over here, Ravenous Horde, which minions have 20% increased movement speed. Movement speed is incredibly underrated for minions. I think it's better than attack and cast speed because minions getting to where they need to go in order to attack, oftentimes it's the travel time in between packs that they're recharging their attacks or their cast. So they really don't need multiple attacks or multiple casts on the same target because generally one hit from your pack of zombies is going to take out whatever pack of enemies it is that they're hitting. So you need the minion speed to keep up with you as the player, but then also to feeding frenzy, rush out and attack whatever it is that they're aggressively attacking. So minion speed is very, very valuable, and especially in conjunction with the particular league mechanic that's active right now with the Blight and the Pump and the lanes. If you can have a ton of movement speed on your zombies or on your skeletons or even on your raging summon raging spirits, that movement speed is very helpful to get from lane to lane as you're clearing out different blights that are popping up and different sacks that are popping up that you need to defend the Pump against. So Ravenous Horde is a great option. Also, Grave Intentions is another great option where you can, of course, gain Unholy Might on kill. Those are both on kill effects, whether that's Ravenous Horde or Grave Intentions. You can either gain Unholy Might or Onslaught. Either one is fine. I personally would rather have Ravenous Horde because it gives you the movement speed, which we just covered. But, of course, Unholy Might is also nothing to sneeze at. And there's a bunch more minion nodes that are even available, like Fearsome Force, if you'd like to grab that. And, of course, there's the entire minion wheel on Death Attunement, as well as the entire Lord of the Dead minion wheel, which can give you some more damage. And there's more damage and more life over near Sacrifice and near Spiritual Command. So there's lots and lots of damaging options for minions at this point, and that's not even talking about the middle of the wheel, which I believe it's Indomitable Army. Here you go, Indomitable Army, which is increased physical damage reduction as well as increased life for minions if you want to become more tanky over here, as well as Aligned Spirits, which minions deal 20% damage. So there's a lot of options if you would rather alter this tree and make it more minion-oriented, which is what I did with my Necro before the Necro, of course, ripped because it was too damage-oriented and not defensive enough for it to survive the various challenges that it needed to deal with. Okay, so that's the passive tree. Let's take a look now at our itemization. So of course, I've mentioned this a couple of times, you need high intelligence in order to use minion wands. The reason why I keep showing off this wand is precisely because of the increased movement speed as well as the increased damage. Until I can get a convoking wand and roll multiple minion gem levels onto that wand, this is going to be my wand because it gives me a little bit of everything. I mean, this is like a passive on the tree stuck into a wand that we did not have access to as summoners. It's just a great, great option that we've never had before. It gives you minion movement speed. It gives you increased damage. It gives you increased attack and increased cast speed, all for your minions. Exactly all of the stats that you would want onto a wand. Highly recommend that you get, again, move speed, damage, and then ideally you could get minion skill gems levels onto your convoking wand. In the helm, I've got the Baron because, of course, we're trying to hit 1,000 strength. It's nice if we hit 1,000 strength because then we can start leeching damage from raised zombies. Again, it's not always needed. It's just another quality of life thing. But really, the biggest part of using the Baron is that you get +1 to maximum number of raised zombies per 300 strength. So again, we're going to be looking for more and more rare items that have tier 1 strength rolled onto them. My amulet, I'm debating exactly what to anoint this amulet with. I'm thinking probably beef or something relatively cheap like that just gives me flat strength. But right now this is giving me 23 strength and dex, 16 to armor, 53 to life, 42 to lightning resistance, and 10 to all elemental resistances. This is by no means my endgame amulet. In theory, this is simply the thing that's getting me through right now, and so that's why I'm thinking about using some relatively cheap oils in order to give me some relatively cheap stats that can push me towards further towards that 900 strength or 1000 strength needed for either another zombie at 900 strength or zombies leeching life at 1000 strength, which would be great. My shield is the Rift Wing Archon Kite Shield. It's just a rare shield. There's really nothing special here, just some life on it, some fire resistance, maybe some chance to block some spell damage, but other than that, this is mostly just giving me resistances. In the boot slot, we are using Alberon's Warpath because, of course, it gives us increased percentage strength, which we're stacking as much strength as possible. It also happens to give us some nice armor, as well as some chaos resistance and move speed. In the belt slot, this is probably the best piece of gear that I've got besides for my Baron and Wand. It's got life, it's got armor, it's got regeneration flat. That really doesn't matter. But then it's also got 2 decently rolled resistances on it, which for me is really nice for rounding out my resistances. These gloves are giving me much needed intelligence. Otherwise, you wouldn't regularly be using Conjurer gloves. You would want to be using something with an armor base on it in order to stack that physical mitigation, because Energy Shield we're not stacking. Nonetheless, I needed something with Energy Shield, not with Energy Shield, but with an Energy Shield base in order to roll higher intelligence, or to hopefully roll higher intelligence and blue sockets. And so that's what we got here with the Gale Paul Conjurer gloves. They do have a nice amount of life on them, 85 life, 41 lightning, and then of course crafted on their strength and just regular base intelligence. The highlight of my chest piece, I was using the Rodden Legion for a long time in order to socket my various specters as well as animated guardian into that, because socketed gems are supported by level 1 meat shield, so it was really nice to have my specters constantly around me along with my animated guardian constantly around me with a chance to taunt. That was just a nice quality of life effect. But this was an incredibly cheap piece of gear that gave me percentage increased strength as well as percentage increased life. Ideally, I'll get a chest piece like this, 6, link it, and it'll hopefully have some better rolls on life and maybe resistances, so that would give me some more room to play around on my gloves or on my amulet or in my shield. That would be the ideal scenario. Nothing really to write home about here with either of these 2 rings. They are life and resistance rings. The best part about this ring, the Agony Grip, is that it's got 4% increased maximum life on it, along with having 71 maximum life rolled. That's a decently rolled ring. Our Diregrass 2-stone ring is mostly just there for resistances, but also gives us a little bit of strength and a little bit of life. So there's lots of room to improve in this build. Flasks right now are pretty much close to being done. We've got a Granite Flask of Heat as well as a Basalt Flask just to round out our physical capped reduction for when we get hit. And then of course we've got an Amethyst Flask of resistance to help out with the chaos resistance. Other than that, that's the build. The items are relatively cheap. The most expensive thing that I'm wearing right now is the Baron. Hopefully this character won't die. The next goals that I've got for this particular character are for this guy to hit level 90 in Hardcore Blight League. I'm hoping that I can push 7k HP with added strength. I think just by adding 200 to 300 additional strength, it's going to go a long way towards making my HP scale up. And with another 5 levels, who knows what I'll do with those 5 levels. I might actually be able to fill out some of the rest of this redemption and spiritual aid tree. I may choose to do that. I may also simply come around and fill in some of these holes here, like minion damage for 14% or minion damage and leech. But I think what I'm most likely going to do is actually grab a couple of these jewel sockets. There's a 2-point jewel socket here down in the Marauder tree and a 2-socket jewel socket up here in the Witch tree. Those are both very accessible. There's another 2-socket down here. So over the next 5 to 6 levels, maybe level 91, I can be rocking 3 more jewels, which will be stacking even more strength and even more life onto this particular build. So this is the update for Almost Dead Draconis, our strength stacking zombie mancer Juggernaut. If you've got any questions about the build or any suggestions, I would highly recommend and welcome your feedback either on our forum guide posting. Of course, I'm always happy to interact there on the forums, as well as right here on the video. You can drop me a comment, let me know all of the different ways in which I've simply screwed up the build and could totally optimize it further. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope that today is the day a Mirror of Calandra drops for you. Thanks for watching that video. If you'd like more information on any of our discussion points today, you can see them down below in the video description. If you'd also like to join our Discord or support our Patreon, you can do so with the links down below. Thanks again, and big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters.